Hello and welcome to another standard video. Today we're checking out this updated version of the Dinosaur Reanimator deck, which is now capable of already winning the game on turn 3 if everything goes perfectly, and that's thanks to this new reanimation spell from Avatar, the Foggy Swamp Visions. It's a 3-mana sorcery. As an additional cost to cast it, we do need to waterbend X, meaning we either pay the mana or we can tap a creature or artifact to help pay for it, and then we get to exile X target creature cards from graveyards. So that also includes the opponent's graveyard, by the way. And then for each creature card exiled this way, we get to create a token that's a copy of it. At the beginning of the next end step, we do need to sacrifice all of those tokens. So ideally, we bring back creatures with powerful enters the battlefield abilities, or perhaps we can find a way to give those creatures haste to get immediate value. And that's exactly what we've set up here. And the way we can win on turn 3 is if we start with one of these 2-mana discard effects that are also artifacts. The Melded Moxite, when it enters, can discard to draw 2, can also maybe make a robot token later. And Saheeli's Lattice can do the same. Instead of making a robot, can craft with one or more dinosaurs, which is also on theme in this deck. So then ideally we have Galta Stampede Tyrant in hand that we can discard with those artifacts, a 12/12 Trampler that when it enters lets us put any number of creature cards from our hand onto the battlefield. So then on turn 3 we can cast our Foggy Swamp Visions, tapping that 2-mana artifact to help us waterbend, bring back Galta, which in turn can now put a whole bunch of dinosaurs from our hand onto the battlefield. One of those might be Palani's Hatcher, which gives all our dinosaurs haste. Can also make additional egg tokens, which we can turn into 3/3 dinosaurs one at a time. And then if we have some other dinosaurs alongside Galta, we could be attacking for 20 plus trample damage even. So that's kind of our plan. Besides Galta, we also have Gishath, Sun's Avatar, as another powerful creature to put in play. It automatically has haste, so we don't care if it necessarily goes away with the Swamp Visions, as long as it gets a nice hit in, and hopefully finds some other dinosaurs with its ability that we can now put on the battlefield. One of those might be a Voltborn Tyrant, which can also gain us additional life and draw additional cards whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters, and when it gets destroyed it also leaves an artifact version of itself behind, so that can do that once again. Then we also have the Trumpeting Carnosaur, which we can maybe discard for 3 mana to deal 3 damage to a creature or planeswalker, so it also doubles up as early interaction. And then when it enters, we still get to discover 5, ideally discovering a Palani's Hatcher to give the team haste. And then besides the Swamp Visions, we still of course have Zombify to just reanimate a creature for 4 mana, so that can also maybe set up the combo on turn 4 if we have Galta in the graveyard. Otherwise we still have some other nice reanimation targets. And besides the Moxite and Lattice, we have a few more discard outlets here, with 2 copies of Brass's Tunnel Grinder, which can discard multiple cards at once to kind of refresh our hand. And then we also have the full set of Bitter Triumph to give us more interaction against creatures and planeswalkers, can discard a card as an additional cost to cast it, or we can pay 3 life. The mana base is not ideal right now, since we do not have all the dual lands that some other color combinations have access to, although we will get Blood Crypt and Lorwyn soon enough. For now we're running plenty of swamps, since we need double black for the Swamp Visions, and then we just need a little bit of red to cast our discard effects. Usually don't end up casting any of our dinosaurs, but we do still have a little bit of green with Stomping Ground, Multiversal Passage, kind of a necessary evil just to fix our black and red mana, but eventually can also maybe help cast our green dinosaurs, and Starting Town, another land that can produce all colors, so could even hard cast a Gishath in this deck, although that's not going to happen very often. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw with a decent hand. If we draw a second swamp, we could potentially win on turn 3 already, and we actually did. So yeah, turn 2 Moxite, discard Galta, turn 3 Visions, waterbending, tapping the artifact, bring back Galta, which puts in Voltborn and Hatcher. Opponent's blue-red, maybe a Lessons deck. They could have the 2-mana Quench. Or they might be sitting on the discard and draw. Now we've got a backup reanimation spell. Alright, just an Accumulate Wisdom, that's fine. Yeah, the Lesson matchup is pretty good, since we can usually go over the top. They have minimal counter spells. And at least in best of 1, I don't expect any graveyard hate. Alright, let's give it a shot. They could also remove the hatcher, then we lose the haste. So then we don't win on the spot, but we would still get a bunch of tyrants, so I still like my chances. So yeah, it would probably be a combustion technique to take out the hatcher. Since they have a lesson in the graveyard, so that could deal 3. But I'm not complaining. Do I get to attack? Opponent's probably a little flabbergasted right now, reading all my cards. I think they're gonna piece it together. Yep, there's a combustion technique. So no attack, Galta goes away. But we still have 2 tyrants, and can probably set up another Swamp Vision soon enough. So currently don't have any dinosaurs in graveyard, also didn't draw any somehow. But starting town can go, and I guess another Moxite. So if they have more combustion techniques, they can maybe exile the tyrants without it leaving behind a token. So that's their way back into this game. Alright, still no dinosaur. So I can start by attacking, since that's probably not going to change. Could also better triumph my own tyrant if it's about to get exiled, so keeping up 2 mana could be worth it. Alright, fine. And then we have plenty of life, but I think I can still afford to discard instead. Get rid of maybe another Moxite or Lantis. And this also puts a dinosaur in the graveyard that I can now reanimate going forward. Alright, and then I guess I'll just go for Lantis here. Discard Passage, I already have a green source to hardcast some of my dinos. Abandon attachments. Opponent still needs to find their own win condition, like a Monument to Endurance. For now, hit for 12. They're out of combustion techniques. So, sure, I guess I'll still zombify the tyrant. I don't think we're at risk of decking. And I can maybe discard more dinosaurs to hand size. They actually had the quench. Can try again next turn. But there's still 2 tyrants they need to deal with. So while we didn't technically win on turn 3, we still pretty much ended the game on turn 3. There's the monuments. Boomerang basics bounce the token. Alright, so they're definitely putting up a fight, but the last tyrant is still too much for them to handle. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand can discard a hatcher. Hope to find more dinos to discard with a grinder, and then we can set up a large Visions with haste. Yeah, at least we've got a plan. The extra Surveil can also maybe bin an extra dinosaur up against blue-red. Don't remember Thundering Falls being in the Lessons deck, so this could also be Jeskai control. In which case they might have some counterspells. Yep, there we see Authority. Could also be Jeskai artifacts, but Authority is still pretty good against our plan of bringing back creatures with haste. So that's not a card we want to see in play necessarily. Although since Screaming Nemesis has been banned, the red deck has definitely fallen off in popularity, so you don't tend to see Authority nearly as much. But yeah, opponent's got 2 mana up, so probably no more lies to counter whatever we play next. At least we've got a few redundant discard effects in hand. Start with a Moxite. They could keep their counterspell for the actual reanimation effect. But nope, opponent's gonna fight over it. So yeah, we'll see. If they came prepared with main deck Graveyard Hate, it's gonna be really tough. For now, stock up. I think I'll take the opportunity to Tunnel Grinder, discard Hatcher, ×2, and a Passage. Maybe still keep the Lattice if we want to keep discarding to set up a Lethal Visions. Alright, it is a 4-color control deck instead. Volborn Tyrant I would like to discard. Still can't pay for no more lies, so we'll try this. And discard Tyrants. Draw Galta. Also something I would like to discard, but our opponent's not going to present any targets for Bitter Triumph. At least not anytime soon. So, yeah, we've got a few options. Could try Zombify on Tyrant, maybe get that countered first. Although they also have a pretty good answer to the Tyrant, which will just exile it so we don't get the extra token. Yeah, I guess we can try the Zombify on Tyrant and see what we get. They might already fight over this. But yeah, I expect Tyrant to get exiled here. Found another Visions. So we're desperately looking for more ways to put creatures in the graveyard. They did not remove the Tyrant. This may be Ultima to wipe the board. Yeah, also deals with my artifacts, and Tyrant doesn't get a chance to trigger since the turn ended. But now I can Visions for 3 while the opponent's tapped out. And that's pretty good value. And that should just be lethal, in fact, with the extra eggs turning into 3/3s. I guess they could have 1 damage to all creatures, which could actually hit the eggs before they level up. Fire Magic is sometimes played in the 4-color decks. They did not go for it, or they didn't have it. So now this would be lethal. Could still maybe have a bounce spell, but nope. That's game. So yeah, Ultima was nice, but Swamp Visions was even nicer. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a pretty clunky hand that doesn't really do anything. This is a little bit better. At least I can discard Gishoth. Still need a way to bring it back. So the second copy is a little bit redundant. And for now, normally I would name black with a multiversal passage, but given my hands, I can maybe get away with naming red. Opponent's holding a shock here, so they are on aggro. At 6 toughness, Gishoth isn't easiest to burn. Now Galta's a nice alternative as well. And a Needlehead. That will punish me for drawing off my Tunnel Grinder. So I've got a few options, including Carnosaur deal 3 to the Needlehead. I can just go for something like a Tunnel Grinder, at which point I would discard Galta and Lattice. Keep Carnosaur as something I can put in play with Galta. and then hope to just find the 4th land for next turn. And then Galta putting in a Carnosaur plus the extra Discover, or we might even draw into more Dinosaurs, is probably good enough to take over the game here against Mono Red. Alright, did not draw the land, but I did draw Swamp Visions. And with Hatcher, I can give the team haste. Although Hatcher at 3 toughness is a little easier for the red deck to remove. So we'll see. I guess Visions also brings back Gishoth, so even if they deal with the Hatcher, I would still be in a decent spot. Alright, opponent's going full bore on the Needleheads. We're at 9. Alright, that's fine. Take my draw. And then Visions for 2. Even drew an extra Hatcher, so that doesn't hurt. And a Lattice I'll just put in hand. Alright, not bad. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw with a hand that's missing a discard outlet to put Galta in the graveyard. So Lattice or Moxite would be our best draws. Those two, plus the Tunnel Grinder as good draws. Bitter Triumph can also discard Galta, then I just need to get up to 4 mana for Visions. At least Carnosaur gives me some interaction. So I'll still try it. Alright, Bitter Triumph. And now keep a land on top. Opponent's blue-green. Maybe the Badger Mold deck. Never mind, Sultai. Does not look like the Kavero Reanimator deck, so it might be more of a control deck instead. But I think I still go for Moxai, discard Galta, and then, yeah, maybe next turn we can already go off. Always make sure to wait on playing your land in case you draw another tap land like Starting Town. Alright, Awaken, get rid of Moxite, that's fine. I can still just pay 1 extra mana for Visions. And that could be game over if there's no interaction. Because we can give our team haste with a Hatcher. Draw a bunch of cards, doesn't hurt. And find another Lattice. Discarding Gishoth. Make a 3/3. And we get to attack. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand is missing some big dinos. Although I can maybe draw into one with Lattice and then still discard with Moxite afterwards to set up a powerful Swamp Visions. It is on the draw, double Starting Town is going to hurt, so there are plenty of situations where this may not work out, but I think it still has enough potential. Blue-white, if it's control, is not going to be our favorite matchup. Hatcher, I'll happily put in the graveyard. So that's a decent start, finding the theater, discarding a dinosaur already. I see Uthros, so this is either a banned Kona deck, or it's just the blue-white artifact deck with Synthesizer, which we would much rather face than a pure control deck. So for now, Lattice, discard Gishoth. Although I would much prefer the Swamp Visions to be lethal, so they don't get a chance to mess with my permanents afterwards. Opponent is indeed on Synthesizer. So I could Visions and it would just be for Gishoth since I cannot get back both. So then I would hit for 7, hope to find Galta in the top 7, and then I can put these other dinos in play. That would be pretty decent. Yeah, I think it's worth it. What's the alternative? Just discard and draw to fill my graveyard a little bit more, hit some more land drops. That's reasonable, but let's live a little. And what do we get? Galta? Only Galta? And discover another Hatcher. They could have a way to exile all my tokens, but that's fine. Still have a pretty nice board presence. These decks typically don't play Day of Judgment, since their sweeper of choice is an artifact. So they seem in trouble here. Perilous Snare. Can deal with Galta. Make a token, but we can make a bunch more 3/3s, clear a path. So they're still very much dead. Alright, sweet. But yeah, in general, this is a pretty favorable matchup as long as we don't stumble too much, since we can usually set up a powerful reanimation turn around turn 4 already, and it's not like they have any instant speed interaction to really mess us up, so then we just maybe need to worry about a token or two. Once the game goes too long, the Synthesizer can certainly take over, and then our dinosaurs may be a little small in comparison, but yeah, that's why you need to get in quickly. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand's missing a discard outlet, so can't really keep. Now we've got discard effects aplenty, missing a reanimation spell, but at least we've got the card draw to try and find them. And then Galta plus Hatcher is a good combo to keep. Opponent on a green deck. Alright, so it's all about being as fast as possible. I might actually wait on passage, although the damage could matter, because I do eventually maybe need double black for Swamp Visions, but 2 damage is maybe not worth it. Just to wait and see if I draw another red or black source. But most lands can make both in this deck. They do have the turn 2 Cub, but they had a tapped land, so they weren't really able to take full advantage. Alright, still need to find a Swamp Visions and a land, ideally. Well, we found a land and a Swamp Visions. Should have been more specific and ask for an untapped land, but could still draw one. And then Galta putting in Carnosaur and Hatcher would be pretty strong. In the meantime, our opponent with double Cub into Ouroboros. So they're not messing around either. Yeah, now it's gonna be too slow. Yeah, turn 3 Visions could have been okay. Turn 4 Visions, way too slow. That's the current state of Standard. I'm pretty sure I'm dead next turn, but we'll see. So, Galta number 4 I'm not gonna need. Wouldn't mind drawing a separate dinosaur that I can put in play, like a Voltborn Tyrant. Opponent with double Ouroboros now. Is this triple Ouroboros? What turn is this? They went turn 1 Elves, turn 2 Cub, not even using the mana. Turn 3 Cub Ouroboros, turn 4 double Ouroboros. Alright, fair enough. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have Lattice, Swamp Visions. Sadly, no Dinosaur that I want to be discarding. So, yeah, on the play, I've got basically one draw step to find something amazing like a Gishoth. I don't think that's realistic. Take Mulligan. This one has a bit more potential. So Lattice can discard Carnosaur, Visions can bring it back on turn 3 if I draw another black source, presumably. And then the question is what to put on the bottom. Probably a Bitter Triumph, since Carnosaur can also double up as removal. And it will give me another dinosaur I can put in the graveyard. Also reasonable to wait on the passage in case I draw like a Stomping Ground, then I can play this on Swamp instead. Opponent blue-green. It's not like bringing back a Carnosaur on turn 3 is going to be all that amazing, and yeah, we did draw Stomping Ground after all. And now Overlord's opponent on the Sultai graveyard deck with Kivero and Bringer of the Last Gift. So dumping a bunch of expensive cards in my graveyard's not a bad plan. But the problem is I do not have another discard outlet now, unless their opponent presents a creature for Carnosaur. Alright, this color I can now remove. And then I could maybe Visions for 2 to bring back double Carnosaur. And then if they hit a Hatcher, they could attack with haste, so that could be decent. Alright, I guess we'll dump Galta now. I guess there's no chance of casting the Visions here. Could have maybe still kept up black mana in case we draw another Bitter Triumph. Well, if I draw black mana, we could potentially win the game here. Bring back Galta, which puts in Hatcher, Gishoth. Opponent still setting up their graveyard. Now with Terror, they can easily threaten lethal if they have a Kivero in hand for Bringer. So this might be my last top deck. And a Bookworm, that's fine. Alright, there we go. Visions could do it for 3. Could even bring back the opponent's Bringer, but yeah, I think I'm happy with my own dinosaurs. Although, what about Terror of the Peaks? I guess Terror could be fun too. And then go Galta, Carnosaur. And get a million triggers, and then we can just win with Terror of the Peaks triggers. Yeah, the Foggy Swamp Visions is actually pretty powerful in the mirror match if you're facing another graveyard deck. And that's game. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand has maybe a turn 3 Galta, just missing the dinosaurs in hand to make that threatening. But I think there's enough potential here that I should keep. Turn 1 Momo, Playful Pet. Okay, for now, I don't think I want a starting town, because that's going to cost me life to play the Moxite. I see, so it's just a mono-white aura deck. Gishoth is a good one. Can put that in play with Galta. So if I can find a few more dinosaurs here, we could even win on turn 3 if we're lucky. Did not draw any more dinosaurs. Yeah, Gishoth by itself is probably not going to be good enough, because Galta's not going to have haste. Our opponent could also have a Sheltered by Ghost for the Lattice, and then I cannot Swamp Visions yet. And they actually went for it. Well, I guess that gives me more time to set up. Ethereal Armor is going to be a bit of a problem here. So now the Aerialist hits for 5 in the air, which we're not going to be able to interact with because of Ward 4 total now. So it's not going to be targetable by Bitter Triumph. So yeah, best I can do is just set up for this Swamp Visions, maybe hit Voltborn Tyrant to gain some life, and try to stabilize from there. Discarding It's hard to tell what's more relevant at this point. Because I imagine I have to go for it next turn already. So then maybe the Moxide doesn't matter anymore. Being able to put another Galta in play means at least I get to keep this one. Another Ethereal Armor. 1 card left in hand, take 10. Yeah, if I don't draw Voltborn, I'm super dead. So, yeah, just Swamp Visions for 1. Galta. Can go for Galta, Carnosaur, Gishath. Keep the Galta, that's not going to go away end of turn. Tunnel Grinder. Actually, might have missed an opportunity to stack triggers differently. Otherwise I might have been able to use a Tunnel Grinder to find more dinos. Alright, turns out it was just another Gishath, so it didn't matter. Attack. But I still seem very dead to the Flying Aerialist. Even if I find a Tyrant now, I would only gain 3, which is not enough. Momo's gonna jump in front. Still trample for 6. Get to look 6 cards deep. They can give the other Aerialist flying as well. Well, I did actually find double Tyrants, so maybe there's still a chance. Yeah. I could survive the incoming attack. Moxide, have to see how many cards I have left. 29. Sure, let's cast the Moxide. At this point, probably still discarding Hatcher as opposed to trying to cast it, and then I haven't played land yet. Another Gishath I don't need. Well, I did not expect to survive this turn, but here we are. Discard 4 to hand size, can discard more dinosaurs to later reanimate. Okay, so we're still in the game. Opponent's at 28, so the game's not just over. Although if they're attacking, I don't need to worry about any blockers. Opponent's at 37. Suppose I could still get back Gishath just to trigger Voltborn Tyrant a bunch, but that doesn't seem necessary. Should just have lethal. I suppose we can get back the opponent's Momo just as a mascot here. Well, if I take out Momo, they do get to make a food token, which they can still sacrifice to gain 3. So that essentially puts them at 40 life. Yeah, I think that's still fine. I guess this Momo doesn't have haste since it's not a dinosaur. So yeah, Voltborn Tyrant saving us from the brink of death. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand doesn't really do anything, so got a mulligan. This one is missing a discard outlet, but then it could be quite powerful. I'll try, although it's not even clear what I should put on the bottom, because I kind of need my lands. Hatcher to give haste would be useful if we reanimate Galta, but I guess Gishath having haste already means it's maybe less important, although it does mean Galta doesn't get to attack right away. Could also be a little risky here and get rid of a land, because if I draw my 2-mana artifacts, I'm pretty likely to draw into more lands afterwards. Yeah, let's maybe just get rid of the passage. Alright, we found the visions as well. And there's a lattice. So that's what we wanted. So now I just need the lanes. Put it on the lesson deck. So some versions play quench as interaction, otherwise there's not too much to worry about. Alright, no land yet, but lattice gives me some more redraws. Just taking 1 damage. Found a swamp. So if they don't have the counterspell, I could Swamp Visions, bring back Galta, and that could be good enough. Yeah, I guess it's worth a try. Although it is suspicious that they didn't play the Storm Chaser's talent. So maybe they do have the Quench in hand. In which case, I guess I could bait it out with a Lattice. Could also wait to just Bitter Triumph Grain. Although there's nothing I actively want to discard, so it's probably going to cost me 3 life. Let's go with a Lattice. That resolved instantly. I guess I get rid of the Bitter Triumph then. Just in the hopes of finding more lands, so if they counter 1 Zombify, it's not a disaster. Our opponent had Abandoned Attachments, I guess that also makes sense. So they don't necessarily have the Quench in hand. Monuments in 2. Nothing so far. Now the Quench could get the 1 mana discount as well. But I gotta go for it now. Only have the 1 creature to get back. No creatures in the opponent's graveyard. Opponent's gonna draw 3 in response, that's fine. We get to have Galta, and we brought along some friends. Also gonna put in a second Gishoth, so that one ends up in the graveyards to set up my next Zombify. But I don't think it's gonna matter, since this is already lethal. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have Double Hatcher, which we can potentially discard, although Hatcher's usually not the creature we want to be discarding and reanimating. So then, yeah, this sounds a little bit unexciting. I do get to see a lot of cards between the double Moxide, so maybe the first one can draw into a bigger dino that I can then discard with a second, and then we've got a, hopefully, turn 4 Zombify. So there might be enough upside here. Alright, opponent with a Curious Farm Animals. Could destroy our artifact, but that's okay. Now the Carnosaur is something I could discard as well. Or I could keep it to potentially deal 3 to a creature, which is also reasonable. I'll discard a Hatcher. So next turn at the very least we can play Theater and play another Moxide. Can maybe draw and then surveil afterwards. Could even consider discarding the Multiversal Passage, since I'm somewhat likely to draw into another land. Opponent could be considering a counterspell as well. Negate. Fair enough. And another Moxide. Again, not super useful when I don't have a creature I actively want to reanimate yet, but I guess I'll keep it for now. So yeah, possible they have more counterspells in hand. Could still try the Zombify, since we have another one. Hatcher resolves. They could take it out before I get to transform an egg, but they don't. Alright, this is a decent amount of pressure at least. Opponent's gonna take out the Moxite, maybe planning to cast a sweeper. No sweeper, we draw the visions. Okay, I guess I'll just move to attackers for now. Attack for 11. And a flanker, so they did actually have some graveyard hate, it just didn't quite line up. Well, I could take that out with the Carnosaur, wait for it to trigger. It's gonna gain 2 scry 2. Yeah, let's just take it out. This way we have a 2-turn clock. Split up. We'll deal with my creatures. They still have 2 mana up. And the presence of Jidur means that they might be planning to mill me out. Now we did find Galta, so that's something I would like to discard with Moxite. And then there's even a chance I can immediately Swamp Visions it back if we draw an untapped land. Assuming there's no interaction, which is not a guarantee. Alright, found the untapped land, so I'll give it a shot. And we can try again next turn. Galta put in Hatcher. If they can destroy the Hatcher, this doesn't look nearly as good. Alright, opponent's just consulting, so they seem dead. Hit you for 15. Alright, sweet. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have Moxite, Double Triumph, so plenty of discard outlets. Maybe missing some larger dinosaurs to discard. At the very least we have interaction. Even the Carnosaur can take out a creature, so I'll give it a shot. Probably gonna end up being a longer game. For now, can play a tapped passage, probably still on black. Might have to take 1 damage off starting town to play Moxite, but eventually I'll need double black. I guess red is still reasonable here. Starting town will make the extra black, and we're not casting that many double black spells, just Swamp Visions. Okay. So black mana is no longer a concern. Can go ahead and play the Verge. Keep up Bitter Triumph. This could be a deck playing some Hexproof or Indestructible tricks, which is a reason to maybe main phase my Bitter Triumph. I see. So maybe more of a Might pump spell deck with fling effects. No blocks. Do I go for the Baloth? Probably discarding a card as well, so I don't take too much damage. And then I can still pump the Challenger afterwards. Yeah, what to discard's an interesting question. Could be starting town. Keep all the removal. Alright, that works. Now I can keep up Carnosaur. Another Challenger. Yeah, the problem with trying to take out Challenger with 3 damage is if they have a pump spell left, that's not going to work out too well for me. So I might have to Bitter Triumph again. Discarding the Moxite, since Atlantis is probably more useful if I had to guess, since we can potentially craft with dinosaurs later. Alright, theater. I could main phase, try and take out the challenger, so at least if they have a pump spell, I don't take the full brunt of the attack. So I could maybe start there. Opponent had a full bore. And then Zombify seems fine. Only bringing back a Carnosaur at the moment. Now Manifold Mouse, pretty scary with a Challenger. Think I still gotta go for Zombify, hope that the Carnosaur hits something useful. Wild Rides, yeah, this is a lot of damage incoming. So I'm gonna be at 1. So if they have a fling effect, I'm dead regardless. If Carnosaur doesn't hit either my last Bitter Triumph or the 5 mana Dinosaur, the Hatcher, I'm also super dead. But there's nothing I can really do other than just hope for a good Discover. Oh, we actually hit Bitter Triumph. Take out Manifold Mouse, giving Trample could be scary. But the Challenger is more likely to trade for Carnosaur by itself. And then I'll keep another Bitter Triumph, I guess. Alright, they had a Slick Shot, so we're dead. Yeah, they had a lot of creatures. I had a good amount of removal, but just wasn't able to reanimate something powerful enough to really take over. GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have Bitter Triumph as a discard outlet, Zombify to reanimate, although we don't have any of our more exciting dinosaurs to bring back. I think I still try it. Carnosaur we can also discard, so that can give us more interaction. Alright, there we go, Galta. That's what I'm talking about. Opponent on a green deck. And a Leyline Weaver, so it's the red-green Badger Mold deck. Okay, so could just Bitter Triumph the Weaver now, and then Carnosaur could still catch Ouroboros before it picks up counters. Or I can let them untap, and then maybe Bitter Triumph Ouroboros if they play it. I think I just take out the Weaver now. Discarding Galta. Still need to draw land number 4. Now it's a Bramble Familiar and no third land. Okay, so best our opponent could do next turn is go like land into Ouroboros or maybe play Badger Mole Cub and then still play a 4-drop. But I think I'm fine just playing this tap land. And then next turn I get to bring back Galta, which puts in all these other dinosaurs, which should be good enough. Right, Breakout could find a Badger Mole Cub, but they still didn't have the land, so they still only have 2 mana here. For a Pollinator, ×2. So they do have a ton of mana. Next turn they could even cast like a Craterhoof Behemoth for all we know. But yeah, let's go ahead and see what the dinosaurs can do. We get to discover a bunch, maybe find some more dinosaurs like the Hatcher. Swamp Visions can go to hand. And our opponent's gonna scoop it up. Yeah, we're already attacking for 20 plus damage, and with 4 toughness, I guess our opponent's just dead here. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have discard effect, Swamp Visions, just missing the dino, but I get a Surveil to maybe put one in the graveyard. I think I still keep. We've got some interaction with a Bitter Triumph, so we're not just gonna get run over. Don't need passage. Alright, still didn't draw the dinosaur, so now I'm hesitant to even play the lattice, since I wouldn't really be setting up the Swamp Visions up against the black-green. Let's keep a Bitter Triumph for now. Alright, Momentum Breaker makes me discard, could actually be an advantage. For now, I might just be discarding a land. Alright, Voltborn I actively want to discard. Hoping our opponent doesn't have Graveyard Hate, which is also a possibility, in which case maybe discarding Tyrant at instant speed with Triumph could have its use cases as well. But I think I'm gonna go for it. Alright, Galta, another card I wouldn't mind discarding. And I can name green in case we need to hardcast some of our dinosaurs. Overlords, it's more of a mid-range ramp deck. So I can zombify Tyrants, and then I still have Galta for later as something I can discard, and then maybe Visions back. Yeah, not really doing much else if I wait. Also have to worry about the cottage exiling my stuff, although I could Bitter Triumph it. Yeah, I think it's fine to just make a Tyrant. If they destroy it without exiling, I get more value. Now Hatcher's also good to have alongside Galta if we try and set up the Visions. And Bargain's gonna fill their graveyard. So I can either cast a Hatcher or go Lattice, discard Galta, bring it back with Visions. And then if they don't take out the Hatcher, Galta also gets to attack, so that could be lethal. Could have some interaction in hand here. But I think this has enough upside. Plus I could draw more dinosaurs. And now double Hatcher gives me the insurance I needed. So no creatures in the opponent's graveyard. Suppose they could have a counterspell. That works. First resolve Tyrant, and then Galta in case we drew another dinosaur. Everything's got haste. And yeah, that's just game over. So yeah, we got to see this updated version of the Dinosaur Reanimator deck in action, and the Foggy Swamp Visions definitely impressed, giving us a way to potentially combo on turn 3. With a perfect hand, we could even win the game on turn 3, so that's absolutely crazy. But yeah, more realistically, around turn 4, we can expect to have a powerful turn where we try to reanimate something big. But Visions also gives us game against other graveyard strategies, being able to exile their creatures as well, so that's a nice bonus. That being said, I have seen an increased amount of graveyard hate in the main deck in Best of 1, with the rise in popularity of the Kavero Reanimator strategies, and the Blue-Red Lessons deck can also be weak to graveyard hate, so the dinosaurs are catching a few strays, unfortunately, and I think the Kavero Reanimator decks are still overall a little bit more powerful and more consistent, so if you're just looking to maximize your win rate, I would stick to those, but for now, if you just want to have some fun with large dinosaurs, this is not a bad way to do it. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.